There is a silent secret you've carried since the very first breath you ever took. A hidden power, invisible to the eyes, yet pulsing within every thought, emotion, and gesture you make. This power is your awakened mind, a creative force that most people never dare to explore fully. Since childhood, we've been conditioned to believe that the mind exists only to store memories, solve everyday problems, and keep us functioning. But there is a far deeper level, one where limits stop being real and doors open to abilities that seem impossible to those still asleep to their own inner greatness. Imagine for a moment that your mind is not merely a repository of memories, but a living, expanding field, constantly reshaping itself. Like a river that never stays the same, every thought you feed, every emotion you feel, every decision you make, carves new banks into this invisible current. And it is within this flow that the secret lies. What no one ever told you is that you were never born to live, trapped inside a fixed mold. You were born holding the key to redesign your own destiny, and that key lies in the way you awaken the hidden power that dwells within you. For centuries, people believed the brain was like an aging machine, rusting and losing vitality with time. This belief was repeated for so long that it became almost a social dogma. How many times have you heard someone say things like, "It's impossible to learn after a certain age," or "He's been that way since childhood. He'll never change"? Those ideas are not only wrong, they are prisons. Prisons built by ignorance of the true potential of the human mind. But modern science has begun to crack those walls. Recent discoveries reveal that the mind is plastic, that it can reorganize and reinvent itself until the final days of life. With every experience, whether small or immense, new pathways are drawn, new connections are formed. The secret no one ever told you is that you hold in your hands the power to influence this process consciously. It's not merely about absorbing information like filling a cup of water. It's about shaping the invisible structure that gives form to your thoughts, your emotions, and ultimately, your life. Think back to the first time you learned something that once felt impossible. Maybe it was learning to swim, to play an instrument, to drive a car, or to face a moment of pain. At first, the difficulty seemed overwhelming. Your body hesitated, your mind doubted. Anxiety made it feel as if you'd never succeed. But little by little, as though decoding a secret language, connection strengthened. That once awkward movement became natural. This is the first glimpse of the mind's hidden power. It learns, it adapts. It creates new routes every time you dare to challenge it. And here begins the revelation no one told you. The power of the mind is not limited to learning daily skills. It extends to reprogramming the deep patterns that shape the way you live. Every recurring thought carves a trail. Every repeated emotion builds a road. Every habit strengthens or weakens invisible pathways that direct your behavior. And the most astonishing truth, you can choose which trails to reinforce and which to abandon. It is not destiny, not luck, not unchangeable genetics. It is choice, awareness, and practice. When we truly grasp this, we realize that within every human being exists a secret workshop, a place where beliefs can be dismantled and rebuilt, fears dissolved, and new possibilities born. It's not about denying difficulties or ignoring challenges, but about recognizing that even the fiercest storms can be crossed when an awakened mind decides to take command. Perhaps at some point in your life you've felt trapped in repetition, the same mistakes in relationships, the same insecurities before opportunities, the same fears returning in different disguises. It feels like an endless cycle. But here's what you were never told. Those cycles are not curses. They are mental circuits that can be rewritten. Just as you once learned to walk, you can also learn to respond calmly under pressure, to trust yourself in uncertainty, and to cultivate clarity where once there was only confusion. This is the invitation of this journey. In the chapters ahead, we'll walk a path that reveals not only techniques but stories, metaphors, and experiences capable of opening your eyes to an inner world you may have never explored. A world where every limit can be questioned, every belief can be reviewed, and every step can lead you toward a more expanded version of yourself. There is nothing mystical or unreachable about it, only the courage to look inward and see that the greatest secret of your life has always been within reach. The hidden power of your mind is not a distant promise. It is alive right now, in this very moment, as you hear these words. It vibrates in every cell, pulses through every memory, awakens with every new idea that arises. What we will learn together is how to use this power consciously, strategically, and transformatively. And as you prepare to dive into the next chapters, remember this simple truth. Your mind is not a prison of iron, but a golden key, one that can open doors you have not yet imagined. That key is already in your hands. The question is, are you ready to turn it and awaken the hidden power that has been within you all along? When you begin to realize that your mind is much more than a collection of scattered thoughts, a powerful revelation takes place. Life is not a mechanical sequence of events, but a canvas you paint each day with the colors of your own consciousness. That is the moment when the discovery of the inner infinite begins. This infinite is not something you must chase out there, nor a prize reserved for a few. It already lives within you, quietly waiting to be accessed. Most people move through life as if carrying a map where the roads have already been drawn. I was born this way, I'll die this way, they say. That belief limits every possibility of change. Yet the truth is that the map of the mind is not fixed. It is a blank parchment, rewritten with every experience. Think about how many times you've surprised yourself with your own ability to adapt. Moving to a new city, overcoming loss, learning a new skill, reinventing your career. At first, everything seemed impossible. But little by little, your mind found pathways, created alternate routes, expanded horizons. That is living proof that within you lies an unlimited territory. So why do so many people insist on living small, stuck in automatic routines? Because they confuse comfort with destiny. It is easier to believe that nothing can change than to accept the responsibility of awakening. It is easier to blame circumstances than to recognize that, in most cases, it is your mind that decides how to interpret and respond to what happens. The secret no one ever revealed is that the life you live today is not an unchangeable reflection of reality, but the result of the stories you tell yourself every single day. Imagine someone who, for years, keeps repeating in silence, "I'm not creative." That simple phrase becomes a sentence. The mind begins to reinforce that circuit. The body behaves as if it were true, and life reshapes itself around that limit. But the moment the narrative shifts, the horizon opens. When that person dares to experiment, allowing themselves small doses of imagination, playing with ideas, taking the first step toward something new, the mind responds. The sleeping circuits start to awaken. With each new attempt, confidence grows. Soon what once seemed unreachable becomes natural. Consciousness is the portal. The moment you realize you've been living on autopilot, that very awareness is your first awakening. It's like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly you see what was always there, and seeing is the first step toward choosing. You can choose to feed thoughts that empower you instead of clinging to beliefs that diminish you. You can choose to build habits that expand your vitality instead of repeating behaviors that drain it. You can choose to be surrounded by people who lift your spirit instead of those who pull you down. Throughout history, countless examples have proven this power of reinvention. There were painters who created their masterpieces only in later life, writers who published their first book after decades, people who rose again from trauma and found a new version of themselves. These journeys are not rare miracles. They are reminders that the mind has no fixed limits. Every time you believe you've reached the end, life shows you there's still another path waiting. The secret no one ever told you is that this inner infinity doesn't require complex techniques or hidden formulas to access. It only asks for your willingness to observe, to question, to experiment. Like an explorer before an unknown land, you don't need all the answers. You just need the courage to take the first step. And as you walk, the path reveals itself. Now think for a moment. What area of your life feels smaller than it could be? Maybe it's your focus, your self-confidence, your creativity, or your calm in the face of challenges. That's your starting point, the first spark that lights the fire. If you nurture that spark, give it air and attention, soon the fire will spread through every part of your life. This journey is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming conscious. Perfection is an illusion that paralyzes. Consciousness is a path that frees. Every time you notice yourself reacting, every time you observe an old belief resurfacing, every time you choose to act differently, your mind expands. It doesn't matter if the steps are small, because even the smallest conscious step is a victory over inertia. And now, before we move on, I want to make an invitation. If this message has made sense to you so far, I want to invite you to keep walking with me on this journey. Subscribe to this channel. We're building this together, and reaching our first 1,000 subscribers is our first big step. Each person who joins strengthens this project and gives voice to independent creators like me. But I want you to be part of this, not just as a listener, but as someone who shares their own experiences. Leave a comment below and tell us how your life has been aligning lately. It can be a small change, a new thought, or even a story that marked your transformation. By sharing it, you not only strengthen your own path, but also inspire our entire community to see that change is real, possible, and already happening. Inside you, there is a stage where 3 silent forces perform every single day. It's as if 3 guardians share the responsibility of guiding your life. Each one speaks its own language, holds its own priorities, and even has its own quirks. The problem is that most of the time they seem to argue with each other, pulling you in opposite directions. Understanding how these 3 guardians work is essential to awakening the hidden power of your mind. Because until you know who's speaking within you, it's hard to decide whom to listen to. The first guardian is the oldest one, the keeper of survival. It was born long before words, before civilization, before any concept of the future. Its mission is simple: to keep you alive. It's the one that makes your heart race when you feel afraid, that tightens your muscles in the face of danger, that prepares your body to fight or flee. It doesn't care if your goal is to give a speech, start a new project, or approach someone you admire. To this guardian, anything unfamiliar or uncertain is a threat, and so it protects you the only way it knows how: by creating resistance. Many people spend their entire lives under this guardian's command. They stay within routines that feel safe, avoid anything new, repeat the same patterns without realizing it. That's its logic. If the familiar has kept me alive this far, it's safer to avoid the unknown. In certain moments, this instinct is useful, but it becomes a prison when you let it rule alone. Because life isn't just about surviving, it's about living fully. The second guardian is more sensitive. It doesn't speak with words, but with emotions. It's the guardian of feelings, of emotional memory, of the need for connection. It stores the memories that shape how you react. It's the reason a song can make you cry without knowing why, or why a single photograph can stir a deep longing for something you thought was forgotten. This guardian seeks pleasure, love, belonging. But it also avoids pain at all costs. That's why it can lead you to make choices that feel good in the moment but later come with a heavy price. How many times have you rewarded yourself with something harmful just because you deserved it? That's this guardian whispering, "Eat that dessert, buy it now, skip that task. You'll feel better for a while." This emotional guardian is essential, because without it we'd be cold machines, unable to love, create, or connect. But when it takes full control, we become slaves to temporary emotion, reacting without considering the consequences. Then comes the third guardian, the youngest in evolution but the most ambitious. It's the architect, the dreamer, the planner. From it come your most daring ideas and your most inspiring projects. This guardian allows you to imagine the future, to create strategies, to invent solutions to complex problems. When you find yourself visualizing possibilities that don't yet exist, this is the one at work. But here's the catch. This guardian can be brilliant, yet powerless on its own. It needs to convince the other two. The architect might dream of a new life, but if the guardian of survival says it's too risky, you freeze. It might plan healthy habits, but if the emotional guardian demands instant pleasure, you sabotage yourself. In this silent negotiation, your life is decided every single day. Maybe you've felt this conflict before. A part of you wants to change, but another part drags you back to the old. It's as if 2 or 3 people live inside the same skin. The truth is, in a way they do. But here's the secret. You are not any of these guardians alone. You are the conductor who can learn to orchestrate them. Imagine each of them as a musician with their own instrument. The guardian of survival plays a deep, steady drumbeat, reminding you of the rhythm of life. The guardian of emotions brings powerful melodies, sometimes soft, sometimes explosive. The architect plays intricate notes full of possibility and vision. Alone, they sound chaotic. But when you learn to listen and harmonize them, the music of your life becomes complete. What few people realize is that this balance doesn't happen by accident. It requires awareness. When fear arises, you can pause and ask, "What are you trying to protect me from?" That question alone opens space for a different choice. When emotion takes over, you can observe and ask, "What is this feeling trying to tell me?" Instead of being dragged by it, you turn the emotion into information. And when the architect appears full of ideas, you can translate them into small, tangible actions, so the other guardians don't resist as much. There are real cases of people who, after accidents or brain injuries, had specific areas of their brain affected and saw their personalities change completely. It shows that each guardian plays a vital role, but none of them alone defines who you are. What defines you is how you choose to conduct this inner orchestra. Think of someone who decides to start running. The architect designs the plan: run 3 times a week, improve health, maybe even finish a marathon. The emotional guardian resists. It prefers the comfort of the couch and the instant pleasure of rest. The guardian of survival warns, "Be careful, you might get hurt, it's too risky." If that person doesn't step in as the conductor, the plan dies before it begins. But if they learn to dialogue with all 3, reassuring the first about safety, rewarding the second with small moments of well-being, and allowing the third to dream big, then change happens. This is where the hidden power of the mind truly begins to awaken. Because you're not here to silence any inner voice, but to integrate them. Each guardian has something precious to offer. Instinct protects, emotion connects, reason expands. When the 3 dance together, life transforms. The secret no one ever told you is that you don't need to eliminate your fears, erase your emotions, or live only by logic. You just need to become the space where they can all coexist. And from that space, choose the symphony you want to play. Because in the end, the mind is not a battlefield, it's a stage. And you are the director. There is an inner eye within you, not made of flesh or bone, but of pure awareness. It is the silent witness that notices your thoughts, the quiet presence that observes your emotions, the unshakable ground beneath all your experiences. Most people spend their lives unaware of this eye. They are caught in the whirlwind of thoughts, dragged by emotions, consumed by habits, without ever realizing that there is a part of them that can step back and simply watch. But when this eye opens, something extraordinary happens. You stop being a prisoner of your own patterns and start becoming the author of them. Think about how often you react without realizing it. A word from someone close triggers anger before you have a chance to think. A sudden setback pulls you into discouragement as if on autopilot. Hours pass scrolling through a screen without remembering why you picked up the phone in the first place. These moments feel automatic because they are. They are programs written deep within your nervous system, repeating over and over without your consent. Yet the moment the inner eye turns on, you see the program running. You catch yourself in the act, and with that, you gain the chance to choose differently. Awareness is the hidden switch. Without it, you live in the dark, stumbling through rooms you don't even know exist. With it, you light up the house of your mind, and suddenly, every corner becomes visible. You realize that the anger wasn't inevitable, it was a choice. The discouragement wasn't permanent, it was a thought pattern. The endless distraction wasn't destiny, it was a habit. And the very act of noticing cracks open the possibility of change. Great spiritual teachers and modern scientists alike have pointed to this truth in different words. The philosopher Kierkegaard once said, "The door to happiness opens outward." What he meant is that you cannot force life to bend by sheer control. You must step back. You must create space. And in that space, the inner eye awakens. Neuroscience shows us the same thing in its own language. when you observe your own thoughts and feelings without judgment. Activity in the prefrontal cortex increases, giving you greater clarity and control. The raw impulses from deeper brain structures no longer dominate. The eye of awareness shifts the balance of power inside you. Imagine for a moment that your life is like a theater stage. Thoughts come and go as actors. Some wear costumes of worry, others of hope. Emotions arrive with powerful voices: joy, fear, anger, love. Habits appear as recurring characters, entering the scene night after night. Most people sit in the audience, captivated, believing the play is real and unchangeable. But the inner eye is different. It lets you stand behind the curtain. You see that the actors are just roles, the sets are just props, and the script can be rewritten at any moment. One of the most profound shifts in human experience happens when you realize, I am not my thoughts. I am the one who notices them. This simple recognition is like stepping out of a storm into shelter. The rain may still fall, the thunder may still roar, but you are no longer at its mercy. You can watch the storm without being torn apart by it. And from this place of calm observation, you gain the freedom to decide how to respond. Think of someone who always loses patience in traffic. For years, frustration takes over every time the road slows down. But one day, instead of exploding, they pause. They notice the tightness in their chest, the rush of irritation, the thought, "This always happens to me." In that tiny moment of observation, something shifts. The anger is still there, but it no longer controls the wheel. A breath replaces a shout. A choice replaces a reflex. That is the power of the inner eye in action. The challenge is that awareness does not grow by accident. It must be trained like a muscle. And the training is simple but demanding. To pause, to watch, to step back. You don't need a temple or a guru. You don't need hours of silence in the mountains. You need only the willingness to interrupt your autopilot for a few seconds and notice what is happening inside you. Over time, those seconds become minutes, and those minutes transform your life. Awareness also has a paradoxical quality. The more you practice it, the more you realize you are not trapped by any single identity. You are not only a professional, a parent, a student, a friend. You are the space in which all these roles appear. And when you understand that, you stop clinging so tightly to labels. You discover that you are free to reinvent yourself, because the inner eye is always larger than the story you tell about yourself. Some people fear this because it feels like losing control, but in reality it is the opposite. It is gaining true control for the first time. Control not by forcing life, but by directing your own responses. The eye does not suppress anger. It sees it clearly. It does not deny sadness, it allows it without drowning. It does not push away fear, it notices it and moves forward anyway. The eye turns every emotion into information and every thought into a choice. As you listen to these words, perhaps you can feel a subtle shift even now. Maybe you are more aware of your breathing, or of the way your body feels in this moment. Maybe you've noticed the constant stream of thoughts that was running in the background a few seconds ago. That noticing, simple, effortless, is the inner eye beginning to open. And here lies the secret no one ever told you. Your mind is not only a machine that produces thoughts, it is also the light that notices them. When you identify only with the machine, life feels heavy, reactive, out of your control. But when you remember the light, you stand in a place of calm strength, where real transformation begins. So the question for you is this: are you willing to open this inner eye more often? Are you ready to pause, to watch, to step back and discover that you are more than the sum of your reactions? Because once you learn to see, you will never again be fully blind to yourself. Your brain speaks a language that is not taught in schools and is rarely recognized in daily life. It is not made of grammar or dictionaries, but of impressions, images, emotions, and patterns of meaning that bypass words entirely. Every thought you entertain, every phrase you repeat, every emotion you intensify, becomes a signal in this invisible language. Most of us spend our lives speaking to the brain unconsciously, programming it with half-truths and casual self-criticism, never realizing that it is listening, always listening, and responding with absolute obedience. Think of the power of a single word. When someone you trust tells you, "I believe in you," something shifts instantly. Muscles relax, confidence stirs, energy rises. On the other hand, when someone says, "You'll never be enough even if you resist," the words leave an echo inside you. They become seeds. And the brain, like fertile soil, cannot help but grow whatever is planted. Over time, the most repeated seeds become forests. This is why the language you use with yourself matters more than you can imagine. But the brain doesn't only listen to literal words. It listens to images. It listens to metaphors. It listens to the way you feel when you say something. If you constantly imagine failure, if you picture yourself stumbling, if you relive past mistakes like old movies, your brain registers these as rehearsals for the future. It strengthens the neural circuits of defeat, not because it wants you to fail, but because it doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. To the brain, what you vividly imagine is as real as what you actually experience. This is not poetic exaggeration. Experiments with athletes show that those who only visualize their training, without moving a muscle, activated almost the same brain regions as those who physically practiced. Some even improved performance simply by rehearsing in the theater of the mind. That is the invisible language at work. The mind shapes the brain, and the brain shapes the body. Now imagine what happens when you turn this power inward, toward your life. Suppose you want to grow in confidence. If you wake each day repeating, "I am not enough," your brain obeys. It reinforces insecurity. But if you begin to craft new images, seeing yourself speaking with calm strength, feeling the grounded confidence of your posture, hearing your own voice steady and clear, the brain begins to carve new paths. At first they are faint trails, fragile, uncertain. But the more you walk them, the stronger they become, until one day the old road of insecurity feels abandoned, and the new road of confidence becomes the natural path. Symbols also play a role in this secret dialogue. Think of ancient cultures. Why did they draw circles, spirals, animals, celestial maps? Because symbols speak directly to the unconscious mind. A circle can represent wholeness. A spiral can suggest growth. A star can awaken hope. You do not need to analyze them consciously for them to affect you. This is why companies use logos, why religions use icons, why nations use flags. They bypass logic and reach the deeper layers of the brain's invisible language. And then there is emotion, the amplifier. Words spoken without feeling are whispers in the wind, but words infused with genuine emotion carve deep lines in the brain. This is why memories tied to strong feelings remain vivid for decades, while neutral facts vanish. You remember the smell of the hospital room where your child was born, the sound of laughter in a moment of pure joy, the sting of humiliation in a classroom long ago. The brain encodes these because the emotional charge tells it, "This matters. Do not forget." You can use this to your advantage. If you want to remember something, tie it to emotion. Repeat affirmations not like mechanical chants, but with feeling. Picture what they mean, breathe them in, imagine the relief, the joy, the gratitude, as if they were already real. That combination of thought, symbol, and emotion becomes a command in the invisible language. Consider this. Every day you are already speaking this language. Every complaint, every worry, every replay of past mistakes is a command. Keep me anxious. Keep me doubtful. Keep me small. But you can just as easily send new commands. Grow my strength. Expand my peace. Deepen my focus. It is not instant magic, but it is inevitable change, because the brain listens, and with repetition it rewires. One man once told me that he had repeated the phrase, "I'm just unlucky," for years. He thought it was harmless, a way of joking about his setbacks. But life seemed to confirm it. Missed opportunities, failed projects, endless disappointments. Then he began to experiment. Every morning, instead of repeating the old phrase, he started saying, "Life brings me hidden gifts." At first it felt false, awkward, but he paired it with images, picturing himself finding unexpected opportunities, feeling the warmth of gratitude. Within months, he noticed small shifts. A lost wallet was returned, An old friend offered him work. New ideas sparked at the right time. The brain had changed the script. The language had changed the play. You can do the same. Begin noticing the invisible language you use each day. Catch the phrases you repeat unconsciously. Pay attention to the images that play in your imagination. Observe the emotions you amplify without knowing. These are the words, the sentences, the stories you are feeding into the control room of your brain. And the control room never sleeps. It always records, always responds. The hidden power no one told you is that you are the author of this script. Every sentence you speak inwardly or outwardly is a brushstroke on the canvas of your mind. Every image is a seed. Every emotion is water and sunlight. The garden of your life will grow from what you plant. So pause and ask yourself, what language have I been speaking to my own brain? And what new language am I willing to learn? Because once you master the invisible language, you no longer live as a victim of circumstance. You live as a creator, fluent in the code that shapes reality itself. Every creation in human history began as a thought. The buildings that touch the sky, the music that moves hearts, the inventions that reshaped civilization, all of them were once invisible sparks in someone's mind. A thought is never just a thought. It is the seed of everything that exists, the blueprint of every possibility. When you begin to see thought not as a passing flicker but as a creative force, you understand why awakening the hidden power of your mind is the key to transforming your entire life. Consider the simple act of imagining. When you close your eyes and picture yourself walking through a forest, your body responds. Your breath slows, your heart rate shifts, your senses prepare as if you are truly there. To the brain, imagination is not fiction, it is rehearsal. This is why elite performers, from athletes to musicians, use mental practice as much as physical training. A pianist who imagines the keys under her fingers strengthens nearly the same neural circuits as if she were at the instrument. A runner who pictures each stride primes the body to move more efficiently. But this truth extends far beyond skills. You can rehearse courage. You can rehearse patience. You can rehearse confidence. Each time you picture yourself responding differently, you teach your brain a new possibility. And the more you practice in the theater of the mind, the more natural it becomes when life offers the stage. There was once a man who feared speaking in public. The mere thought of standing before an audience made his palms sweat and his voice vanish. For years, he avoided opportunities, convinced that he was not the type who could speak with authority. Then he discovered the practice of mental rehearsal. Each night he closed his eyes and imagined walking calmly to the podium. He pictured the light on his face, the steady rhythm of his breath, the sound of his voice resonating with strength. At first his mind rebelled, whispering, "This is not you." But night after night he rehearsed. Weeks later, when he finally stood in front of real people, something astonishing happened. The fear was there, yes, but beneath it was a foundation of familiarity. He had been there before in his mind, dozens of times. The stage was no longer foreign, and from that day, his life began to expand. Your mind has this same power. It does not matter if the change you seek is small or immense. The hidden secret is that thought itself is practice. Every time you repeat the thought, "I can't," you are rehearsing limitation. Every time you picture failure, you are rehearsing collapse. And every time you dare to imagine a new possibility, you are rehearsing transformation. This is why being careless with thoughts is dangerous. A mind left unguarded becomes a theater of doubts, a rehearsal of fears. You wake up rehearsing stress. You walk through the day rehearsing worry. You fall asleep rehearsing regret. And then you wonder why life feels heavy. The answer is simple. The show you perform in the outer world follows the script you rehearse in the inner one. But here is the invitation. You can choose a new script. Begin with something close to your heart. If you long for more peace, close your eyes and picture yourself moving through challenges with calmness. If you long for greater creativity, imagine yourself surrounded by ideas that flow like rivers. If you long for stronger relationships, envision yourself listening deeply, speaking with kindness, embracing with presence. These images are not fantasies. They are rehearsals. And the brain, faithful servant that it is, will begin to make them real. Science confirms this. Functional MRI scans reveal that imagining an action and performing it light up overlapping regions in the brain. The nervous system does not wait for reality to act. It begins the moment you imagine. Over time, the imagined becomes the expected, and the expected becomes the lived. Think of a sculptor with a block of marble. The untrained eye sees only stone. But in the sculptor's mind, the figure is already alive. He chips away, guided by the vision within. In the same way, your life is the marble, and your thoughts are the chisel. Every day you carve. Every thought shapes. Every image reveals. This does not mean that imagining alone is enough. Thought without action is like a song never sung. But action without thought is like a song sung off-key. The real magic comes when you combine both. First you imagine, then you step. First you rehearse, then you act. The bridge between the two is what creates transformation. There will be resistance. Old thoughts will rise telling you that you are pretending, that it is pointless, that you are wasting time. But remember, those are rehearsals too. Rehearsals of defeat. You have rehearsed them for years, which is why they feel so loud. The task now is not to silence them completely, but to give more energy to the new rehearsal, until it drowns out the old chorus. And here lies the secret no one told you. The most powerful changes in life rarely begin with massive leaps. They begin with quiet rehearsals in the hidden theater of the mind. Each time you dare to imagine differently, you plant a seed. Each seed, watered by repetition, becomes a path. Each path, walked with trust, becomes a reality. So ask yourself, what play have I been rehearsing in my mind? Is it a drama of fear or a story of courage? Is it a tragedy of limitation or a symphony of expansion? Because the stage of your life will always follow the rehearsal you perform within. And when you choose to imagine deliberately, you awaken a force that can rewrite your destiny. In a world overflowing with noise, attention has become the rarest treasure you own. Think about it. Every moment, millions of impressions compete for your awareness. Advertisements flash, phones buzz, conversations swirl, memories surface, worries intrude. And yet your mind, magnificent as it is, can hold only a sliver of it all at once. This sliver, this fragile spotlight of awareness, is what shapes your experience of reality. Where your attention goes, your life follows. It may sound simple, almost too simple, but it is the most overlooked truth. Attention is energy. What you feed with your focus grows stronger. What you neglect fades away. A garden thrives not because of its size, but because of where the gardener places water, sunlight, and care. Your life is the same. The places where you shine the beam of your attention become vibrant, alive, undeniable. The places you ignore wither, disappearing into shadows. Science gives us numbers. While your brain processes millions of bits of information every second, your conscious mind can attend to fewer than 50. Imagine that. Out of an entire ocean, you scoop up only a handful of drops, and those drops are what you call your reality. That means reality is not what happens around you. Reality is what you choose to notice. If your attention clings to problems, your world becomes problems. If your attention leans toward gratitude, your world becomes gifts. Consider a famous experiment often called the invisible gorilla. Participants watched a video of people passing a basketball. Their task was to count the passes. In the middle of the scene, a man in a gorilla suit walked through, pounding his chest. Almost half of the viewers never saw him. Their attention was locked so tightly on the ball that the gorilla simply vanished from awareness. The lesson is clear. What you do not notice does not exist for you. And if something as obvious as a gorilla can disappear, imagine how many opportunities, solutions, and miracles slip past you every day because your attention is elsewhere. Attention is not just selective, it is creative. Neurons that fire together wire together, as the old principle says. Each time you focus on a thought, you strengthen its circuit. Focus on anger, and those pathways become highways. Focus on compassion, and those pathways bloom like meadows. In this way, your brain is not a passive recorder of events. It is an architect that builds according to the blueprints of your attention. But here lies the challenge. Your attention is under siege. Entire industries are built on hijacking it. The endless scroll of social media, the flashing colors of apps, the clever hooks of entertainment, all designed to snatch your gaze and never let go. It is not weakness on your part when you feel trapped in them. It is design. You are wrestling against systems created to addict, which is why reclaiming your attention is not merely self-discipline. It is an act of freedom. How do you take it back? Start small. Silence your phone for a few minutes each day. Notice the discomfort that rises, the itch to check, the phantom vibrations. Breathe through it. That is your nervous system unwinding from years of conditioning. Train it gently. Another practice is what monks have done for centuries. Focus on the simplest of things. A candle flame, the rhythm of your steps, the sensation of water on your hands as you wash a dish. These humble anchors, when given your undivided attention, strengthen your capacity to hold focus in a world that constantly tries to scatter it. There is another truth. Attention is presence. The more present you are, the more alive you feel. Think of times when life felt richest, perhaps walking in a new city, watching a sunset, holding a loved one's hand. Why did those moments shine so brightly? Because your attention was fully there, not fractured, not drifting. Presence turns the ordinary into sacred, and presence is deeply linked with happiness. A study from Harvard revealed something astonishing. People are happier when their attention is on what they are doing, regardless of what it is. Washing dishes with full presence can bring more satisfaction than daydreaming about a vacation while you work. It is not the activity that defines joy, but the quality of your attention. But here is the paradox. Training attention is simple, yet not easy. The mind is restless, like a puppy tugging at its leash. It wants to run into the future, replay the past, dart after every noise. The key is not to punish it, but to patiently bring it back again and again to the present. Each return is a victory. Each return is training. Over time, the leash shortens, the restlessness softens, and your attention becomes steady, like a lantern in the dark. Imagine your attention as a river. Left unguarded, it floods into every ditch, carrying away your energy. Directed with care, it becomes a current that can move mountains. This is the hidden power within you. To master your attention is to master your life. So ask yourself, what deserves my attention right now? Is it the noise or the signal? Is it the fear or the possibility? Is it the distraction or the dream? Every answer builds your reality, and if you want to awaken the hidden power of your mind, begin here, with the beam of light you carry everywhere you go, your attention. From the time we are children, the world whispers myths into our ears. Some are told as jokes, some as warnings, some disguised as wisdom passed down through generations. You're just not good with numbers. Creativity is only for artists. People like us never get far. These phrases seem harmless, but they are not. They are invisible chains tightening with every repetition, shaping how we see ourselves and what we believe is possible. And yet, the greatest tragedy is not that others say these things. It is that in time, we begin to repeat them ourselves. Think back to your own childhood. Maybe a teacher once told you that you weren't talented in a certain subject. Maybe a family member labeled you as lazy, distracted, or clumsy. At first, you resisted. Deep inside, you felt that label didn't belong to you. But the more it was repeated, the more it echoed until one day you found yourself saying, "I'm just not that type of person." Without realizing it, the myth had become your truth. But here is the secret no one told you. These myths are not facts. They are cultural illusions, beliefs recycled over centuries, designed to make people settle for less than they are capable of. For generations, even science itself declared that the brain was rigid, unchangeable, doomed to decline after a certain age. But neuroscience shattered that myth. Today we know the brain is plastic, adaptive, and alive until the last breath. If your brain can reinvent itself, why would you accept the myth that you cannot? There is a story of a young woman who grew up believing she was bad at learning. In school, she struggled to memorize dates and formulas, and soon the label stuck. Years later, when she decided to try learning a new language, the old myth returned. You'll never manage this. But instead of surrendering, she treated the myth as a challenge. She learned slowly with patience, turning the process into a game of discovery. To her surprise, she not only learned the language, she began to love the act of learning itself. The truth revealed itself. The myth had been a cage, not a fact. And that is what myths do. They build cages that don't exist in reality. They trick you into believing the walls are solid, when in truth, they are made of smoke. The only thing holding them up is your belief in them. The moment you question them, they crumble. How do you begin? Start with awareness. Write down one belief you have about yourself that feels limiting. Perhaps, I'm too old to change, or I'm not disciplined enough, or I don't have the talent. Then ask, who told me this? Was it a parent, a teacher, a colleague, or myself? And is it a fact, or just an interpretation? You will often discover that the belief was planted long ago, in soil that never belonged to you. The second step is to redefine failure. Most myths thrive on the fear of mistakes. From childhood, we are trained to believe errors mean we are not good enough. But what if every mistake is simply data, a step in the experiment of becoming? The most innovative scientists, artists, and leaders in history built their success not by avoiding failure, but by embracing it as proof of progress. Each wrong turn refined their path. If you can see mistakes as bricks in the road, not walls blocking your way, myths lose their power. The third step is to expose yourself to the new. Every time you try something different, a recipe, a new skill, a conversation in a language you barely know, your brain expands. You remind yourself that you are not fixed, that you are capable of surprising even yourself. These small acts of novelty break the myth of limitation piece by piece, until the cage dissolves. History offers powerful reminders. There was once a patient known only as HM, who after a surgery lost the ability to form new memories. His case was tragic, but it opened the doors of neuroscience to an entirely new understanding. Memory, learning, and identity are not rigid gifts, but dynamic functions of the brain. His struggle, while painful, helped the world see that even what seems most permanent in us is in fact fluid, adaptable, and alive. So here's the truth. You are not the sum of your limitations. You are the sum of your possibilities. What you believe to be the edge of your capacity is often just the edge of a myth. Step beyond it, and you will see there was never a wall, only a horizon waiting for you to walk toward it. Take a moment now and ask yourself, what myth have I accepted without question? Which voice inside me says, this is who you are, and nothing can change it? Then imagine standing before that voice and whispering back, I am more than you ever believed. Because you are. The myths that once chained you are powerless when exposed. And every time you break one, you awaken another layer of the hidden power within your mind. Every life is shaped not only by what happens within us, but also by the invisible soil in which we are planted. Culture, repetition, and fear act as unseen roots that feed or starve the growth of our mind. Most people never stop to examine these roots, and because of that, they spend years wondering why certain patterns never change. But once you see them clearly, you realize they are not destiny, they are programming, and programming can be rewritten. The first root is culture. From birth, we absorb the beliefs of the world around us without question. If your family constantly said money was corrupt, chances are you feel guilt at the thought of abundance. If the people around you insisted that success is for others, you probably hesitate to aim too high. Culture is powerful not because it is true, but because it is repeated so often it feels like truth. What you think is your opinion is often nothing more than an echo of your environment. The second root is repetition. Every thought you repeat, whether positive or negative, carves deeper grooves into your brain. Imagine a field of tall grass. The first time you walk across it, the path is faint. The 10th time, the grass bends, The 100th time there is a trail, and soon the trail feels like the only way through. This is how repetition creates habits of thought. It is not reality that holds you captive, but the path your mind has walked too many times. The third root is fear. Fear is perhaps the oldest program of all, written into our biology to keep us alive. But in modern life, it often keeps us small. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of rejection. Fear of looking foolish. These are not threats to survival, but your brain reacts as if they were. Fear whispers, "Stay where you are. Do not risk. Do not grow." And if you listen too long, you begin to mistake comfort for safety, when in truth it is only stagnation. Together, culture, repetition, and fear weave a cage so subtle you may not even see the bars. You wake up and live each day under their influence, calling it who you are. But here is the secret no one told you. These roots are not fixed. You can pull them out, replant yourself, and grow new ones that nourish instead of suffocate. History gives us striking examples. In the mid-20th century, a little-known psychologist studied a man who could remember endless lists of numbers, words, even nonsense syllables. His brain linked information through unusual associations, sounds, colors, sensations. What most would call impossible became his normal. His case proved that the limits we accept are often illusions born of culture and repetition, not reality. And this truth is available to you. You may not develop a photographic memory, but you can expand far beyond the myths you inherited. Begin by questioning one cultural belief you were taught. Perhaps, "I am too old to learn." Where did it come from? Is it truly yours? Then look at the repetitions in your life. What thought do you play over and over like a broken record? "I am not enough." "It is too late." Replace it with a new track. At first it feels false, but remember the field of grass. Walk the new path enough times and it becomes the way forward. Finally, face fear with curiosity instead of surrender. The next time fear says, "You cannot do this," respond with, "Let's find out." Fear loses its grip when it is met with action. Every step you take despite fear proves that the bars of the cage are not steel, but smoke. Ask yourself now, what invisible roots are shaping me? Which belong to me and which were planted by others? Which still serve me and which must be pulled out? This act of questioning is not rebellion for its own sake. It is reclaiming your mind as your own territory. Because the hidden power of your mind is not buried under destiny or fate, it is buried under layers of culture, repetition, and fear. And once you clear those layers, you discover that growth is not only possible, it is inevitable. Look closely at your life and you will see that much of who you believe yourself to be has been shaped by the world around you. The environment is never neutral. It is always teaching, always suggesting, always pressing its fingerprints into your mind. The neighborhood where you grew up, the words spoken at the dinner table, the friends who surrounded you, the culture that set the rules, all of it has been training your brain since before you were old enough to notice. And unless you become conscious of this training, you risk living a life written by someone else's script. Think of a stage actor stepping into a play. If the role is already written, the lines are memorized, and the audience expects a certain performance, how much freedom does the actor really have? That is how most people live, performing roles inherited from family, culture, and society. You choose a job not because it excites you, but because it is what people like you should do. You pursue relationships that look acceptable to others, rather than true to yourself. You follow invisible rules without realizing they were never chosen by you. But here's the paradox. While the environment molds you, you also have the power to mold the environment. You are not just a product of your world, you are also a creator of worlds. The key lies in awareness, noticing where the environment is shaping you unconsciously, and then deciding where you want to shape it back. Consider an experiment from the 1970s. A psychologist sent healthy volunteers into psychiatric hospitals, asking them to pretend they heard a vague voice, but otherwise act normal. To everyone's shock, doctors diagnosed them with severe disorders and kept them inside for weeks. What this revealed was staggering. Context shaped perception more than reality did. If experts could not see healthy people clearly once the environment had labeled them ill, imagine how your own surroundings distort how others see you and how you see yourself. Your world may have told you, people like you don't succeed, or dreams are for the privileged. And without questioning it, you may carry those labels as if they were facts. But remember, they are context, not truth. The same person in a different environment may blossom in ways unthinkable before. Another invisible influence is what psychologists call social contagion. Studies at Harvard found that emotions spread through networks like invisible currents. If your friend's friend is depressed, your own risk of feeling down rises, even if you never meet them. Happiness, too, is contagious, rippling outward like sunlight. What this means is that the people you surround yourself with are not just companions. They are sculptors, quietly shaping your mood, your choices, your identity. This is why creating intentional environments is essential. You do not always need to move cities or leave your family, but you can craft micro-environments that expand you rather than shrink you. A corner of your home dedicated to silence and reflection. A circle of friends who talk about growth rather than gossip. A daily practice of feeding your mind with voices that remind you of your potential. Each of these is a small rebellion against the inertia of the larger environment. Take the example of a woman who grew up in a home where education was dismissed. Books were rare, curiosity was mocked, and ambition was labeled arrogance. For years, she believed she was not intelligent. But one day she stumbled into a library and felt something awaken. She began spending afternoons there, surrounding herself with a new environment, one of knowledge, ideas, and inspiration. Within a year, her identity shifted. She was no longer the girl who wasn't smart. She was a learner, a thinker, a dreamer. Her environment had changed, and so had she. But here is the deeper truth. The most powerful environments are not external, but internal. Your inner dialogue, your rituals, your habits, these are the rooms you live in every day. If your mind is filled with self-criticism, you inhabit a hostile house. If it is filled with encouragement, you inhabit a sanctuary. The question is, which inner environment are you building? Practical steps help. Begin by noticing the common phrases in your world. Does your family repeat, "Life is hard"? Does your circle say, "There is no point in trying"? Write them down. Then ask, do I want to keep rehearsing this story? Next, create deliberate spaces. Even one shelf of books, one playlist of uplifting voices, one group where ideas flow. These are seeds of new environments. Finally, surround yourself with expanders, people who live in ways you aspire to. Their example is proof that another reality is possible. And yet the paradox remains. While you must guard against being passively molded, you must also embrace the fact that you can actively mold. Some of the greatest transformations in history came from people who chose to change their environment instead of surrendering to it. A woman planting trees in a barren land, a teacher opening a school in a forgotten neighborhood, an inventor turning a garage into a laboratory. Each of them refused to let the environment dictate their story. Instead, they became authors of new environments, new possibilities. So ask yourself, am I a passive product of my surroundings, or am I an active creator of them? Am I allowing labels, habits, and moods to shape me? Or am I consciously planting the seeds of a different world? Because the hidden power of your mind is not only in what you think, but in how you choose to engage with the world around you. When you see the environment not as a prison but as a canvas, everything changes. Your body is not just a vehicle carrying your mind through life. It is a living archive, a library of memories written in muscle, breath, posture, and sensation. Long before you consciously decided who you were, your body was storing information, rehearsing reactions, and building habits that now feel automatic. And unless you learn to read and reprogram this body memory, you will continue living old stories without realizing they no longer belong to you. Think of fear. The moment you face a threat, your heart races, your stomach tightens, your shoulders lift. Even if the danger passes, your body remembers. If the same fear repeats, The body learns the script so well it can perform it without the mind's permission. Years later, you might walk into a harmless situation, a meeting, a conversation, a new challenge, and suddenly your chest tightens as if the past were happening again. This is the body's memory at work. The same is true with habits. Each repeated action, no matter how small, etches itself into your nervous system. Reaching for your phone when you feel bored, eating sweets when stress rises, crossing your arms whenever someone disagrees with you. These are not conscious choices anymore. They are programs your body runs on autopilot, scripts rehearsed so many times that they play themselves. But here lies the good news. Just as the body learns patterns, it can unlearn them. And more than that, it can learn new ones. The body is not a stubborn jailer. It is a loyal servant waiting for new instructions. The question is whether you will take the time to give them. Science shows us the depth of this truth. At Duke University, researchers found that more than 40% of what you do every day is not choice but habit. Actions carried out while your conscious mind is elsewhere. In other words, almost half of your life is being lived by memory, not by intention. If those memories serve you, they create ease. If they do not, they become chains. But the chains can be broken. The first step is awareness. Begin by observing your body as if it were a friend trying to tell you something. Notice the impulse before it takes over. The next time you find yourself reaching for your phone without reason, pause and whisper, "My body is asking for distraction." When you crave food without hunger, say, "My body is asking for comfort." This pause creates space, and in that space you can choose a new response. The second step is breath. Breath is the remote control of the body. Fast and shallow breathing tells your nervous system to prepare for threat. Slow, deep breathing tells it to relax, to trust, to release. Try inhaling through your nose for 4 counts, holding for 2, and exhaling slowly for 6. Do this 3 times. Feel how the body shifts, as if it were listening to a calm voice saying, "You are safe." With practice, breath becomes the bridge between body and mind, breaking old loops and building new ones. The third step is disruption. Habits are sticky because they love routine. So disrupt them. Take a different route to work. Brush your teeth with the opposite hand. Rearrange your desk. Small variations may seem trivial, but they wake up the brain and remind the body it is capable of change. Once awakened, you can guide it into deeper transformations. Consider a study in Cleveland where participants imagined lifting weights without moving a muscle. After several weeks, their strength increased by more than 10%. The body responded to the mind's rehearsal. This means you are not trapped by the body's past. You can teach it new scripts even without action. Imagine yourself walking tall, speaking with confidence, breathing with calm. The body listens. And when the real moment comes, it remembers. There is a story of a man who lived with chronic tension in his shoulders. For years, he thought it was simply the way his body was. Then one day, during meditation, he placed his hand gently over his chest and whispered, "I release the weight I've carried." He repeated this daily. Slowly, the tension eased. What he discovered was not just relaxation. He discovered that his shoulders had been holding years of unspoken responsibility, burdens he had accepted unconsciously. By giving his body new instructions, through breath, gesture, and intention, he rewrote the script it had been carrying. You can do the same. Associate physical gestures with new states of being. Place a hand on your heart whenever you want to summon calm. Lift your chin when you want to summon courage. Breathe deeply before answering a difficult question. Over time, these anchors become shortcuts. The body learns them just as it once learned fear. The deeper truth is this: your body is not against you. It is for you. It has simply been loyal to old instructions. It remembered the stress, the habits, the patterns, because it thought that was what you needed. But now you can thank it for its service and offer new guidance. As the philosopher Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To master yourself is not to fight your body, but to direct it, to recognize that your body remembers, and then to teach it what is worth remembering. So take a moment now, Sit quietly. Feel the posture you are in. Ask yourself, what memory is my body carrying right now? And then, with kindness, give it a new one. Because the hidden power of your mind is not only in thought, but in the living memory of the body. And when the two work together, you become unstoppable. Time. It is the one resource every human shares equally, and yet it is the one most misunderstood. People speak of time as if it were a thief, always taking, never giving. I don't have enough time. Time is slipping away. I'm running out of time. And with every word, time becomes the enemy. A shadow chasing you, a weight pressing down, a reminder of what you cannot control. But here is the hidden truth no one told you. Time is not your enemy. It is your ally. The way you relate to time can either trap you in anxiety or free you into possibility. Consider how most of us live. We split time into 3 boxes: the past, the present, and the future. The past becomes a museum of regrets and glories, visited again and again until its halls feel like home. The future becomes a theater of fears and fantasies, rehearsed so vividly that we forget nothing has yet been written. And in between, the present, the only real moment we ever truly have, is often ignored, as if it were too simple, too small to matter. Yet neuroscience shows that your brain does not distinguish clearly between past memories, imagined futures, and present reality. When you recall a painful memory, your body relives the stress as though it were happening again. When you worry about what might go wrong tomorrow, your nervous system reacts as if danger were already in the room. You pay the price of suffering twice, once in imagination and once if it actually occurs. The present, meanwhile, is neglected, even though it is the only place where change, growth, and transformation can occur. Think of time differently. Imagine it not as a straight line rushing toward an end, but as a living rhythm, a pulse. Every breath is a beat. Every sunrise a new measure. Time does not demand you chase it. It invites you to dance with it. Those who fear time live as prisoners. Those who honor time live as partners. There is a story of a violinist who wanted to master her instrument. At first, she believed more hours meant more progress, so she practiced endlessly, exhausting herself, until music became a burden. Then she discovered something extraordinary. The most skilled players did not practice the longest, but the most wisely. They worked in focused sessions of 90 minutes, then rested. They knew that the brain consolidates learning during breaks, not just effort. In other words, they made time their ally, not their enemy. Within months, her progress surpassed her peers. The secret was not endless effort, but intelligent partnership with time. You can do the same in every part of life. When you treat time as a tyrant, you push harder, rush faster, and end up burned out. But when you treat time as an ally, you understand that progress happens in cycles. Effort followed by rest, growth followed by reflection. Seeds do not sprout overnight. They require seasons, and so do you. Another way to reframe time is through presence. Presence stretches time. Think about a trip to a new place. Every sound, sight, and taste feels vivid, and a single day feels like a week. Why? Because your attention is fully engaged and the brain records every detail. Contrast this with routine days where you move on autopilot and weeks vanish without memory. The difference is not in the clock, but in the quality of your presence. When you are present, time expands. When you are distracted, time collapses. So how do you turn time into an ally? Begin with small practices. Choose one anchor: a stone you carry, a bracelet, a cup of tea. Each time you touch it, remind yourself, this moment is all I need. Notice your breath, the weight of your body, the sound around you. This simple act pulls you back from the museum of the past and the theater of the future into the living stage of now. Next, reinterpret the past. You cannot rewrite events, but you can rewrite their meaning. Instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Ask, what did this teach me? The past then becomes a teacher, not a prison. And the future? Instead of rehearsing disaster, rehearse possibility. Imagine not just what could go wrong, but what could go right. Treat the future as a canvas, not a threat. There is wisdom in pacing. Some things require urgency, yes, but most require rhythm. The greatest trees take years to grow. Rivers carve canyons not by force but by patience. If you measure your life only by speed, you will feel constantly behind. If you measure it by alignment, you will feel constantly supported. A practical exercise. Take 5 minutes each day to fully inhabit time. Choose one ordinary activity: eating a piece of fruit, walking down a street, listening to music. Experience it as if it were the only thing in the universe. Notice every detail. This is not wasted time. It is reclaimed time. Teaching your brain to anchor in the present, the only place where transformation truly lives. Remember this: time is not a thief stealing from you. It is a partner walking beside you. It does not demand fear. It demands relationship. If you treat it with respect, it will give you clarity, rhythm, and balance. If you treat it as an enemy, it will become a storm you can never outrun. So ask yourself now, how do I want to live with time? As a prisoner, always behind, always anxious? Or as a dancer, moving with its rhythm, trusting its seasons, and letting its flow carry me into growth? Because when you awaken the hidden power of your mind, you realize that time was never against you. It was waiting all along to become your greatest ally. Every insight you have heard until now, about awareness, language, imagination, attention, environment, body, memory, and time, points toward one single truth. Thought is powerful, but thought alone is not enough. A seed contains infinite potential, but unless it is planted, watered, and nurtured, it remains only a possibility. The hidden power of your mind awakens fully when thought becomes action, when inner vision steps into the outer world. Too many people stop at the level of ideas. They read, they listen, they reflect. They fill journals with plans, rehearse affirmations, build visions in their imagination. And while all of this is valuable, it is only half the journey. Without action, the mind becomes a house of mirrors, endlessly reflecting but never creating. The moment you act, even imperfectly, the mirrors break and reality shifts. Consider the story of a man who dreamed of starting his own business. For years, he studied books, watched others succeed, even visualized himself as an entrepreneur. But he waited for the perfect moment, for fear to vanish, for confidence to arrive fully formed. That moment never came. One day, exhausted by waiting, he took one simple step. He made a single phone call. It was small, almost laughable compared to the size of his dream. But that call led to another, and then another. Within a year, the business existed, not as an idea, but as a living reality. The difference was not knowledge, but action. Action has a mysterious quality. It multiplies itself. One step reveals the next. Clarity is not given before movement. It is earned through movement. You may not know how the journey will unfold, but the moment you begin, the path starts to show itself. This is why the ancient proverb says, "Move, and the way will open." Action also transforms fear. Fear thrives in stillness, feeding on what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. But the moment you take action, fear loses its fuel. Even if the action is small, sending an email, asking a question, trying once more, it punctures the balloon of imagined disaster. Fear shrinks when faced with reality. But there is a difference between forced action and inspired action. Forced action comes from desperation, from trying to prove your worth, from chasing without alignment. Inspired action, on the other hand, flows from the inner eye, from the clarity of vision you have rehearsed in your mind. It may still require courage, but it carries a sense of rightness, a whisper that says, "This is your step." You know it because, even if it scares you, it also energizes you. Inspired action also respects rhythm. Just as seeds grow in seasons, inspired action does not demand everything at once. It asks for the next step, not the entire staircase. Write the first page, not the whole book. Make the call, not the company overnight. Meditate for 5 minutes, not perfection on day one. These small, aligned steps compound, becoming momentum, becoming transformation. And here is where the mind and body join. Each thought rehearsed in the theater of your imagination becomes a script your body can now perform. Each vision practiced with emotion becomes energy fueling your steps. Each new belief rewires your brain to see opportunities you once overlooked. Thought primes you, action fulfills you. There is another secret. Sharing your journey magnifies its power. When you tell others about your steps, you create accountability. When you inspire others with your progress, you strengthen your own resolve. This is why communities transform faster than individuals alone. Growth spreads, just as fear does, but in the opposite direction. Courage is contagious. So let me invite you now, not just as a listener, but as a participant. What is one step you can take today, no matter how small, that aligns with the hidden power you feel stirring inside you? Perhaps it is reaching out to someone you trust. Perhaps it is starting a practice you have delayed. Perhaps it is choosing to speak kindly to yourself after years of criticism. Whatever it is, take it. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because action is the final bridge between thought and reality. Without it, your potential remains locked inside. With it, your potential becomes life. And as we close this journey together, let me say this. You are not just a thinker, not just a dreamer. You are a creator. You carry within you the hidden power no one ever told you about, and now you know it. Do not let it remain a secret. Live it, share it, shape your world with it. If these words have resonated with you, if they have awakened something in your own story, I want to invite you to continue walking with me. Subscribe to this channel, not as a passive listener, but as part of a living community. Every voice here matters. Every story adds strength. Leave a comment and share how your own life has been shifting, what insights you are carrying, what steps you are ready to take. When you speak your journey, you not only claim it for yourself, you inspire someone else to believe in theirs. We are building this together, a place where hidden power becomes visible, where stories of transformation become fuel for others, where every subscriber is not just a number but a part of a movement. By joining, you help give voice to independent creators and to a vision of growth that belongs to all of us. And finally, remember this. You have nothing to prove to the world, only something to live. The secret has always been within you. The power has always been yours. Awaken it, act on it, and let the world witness who you truly are.